listening to Coffee and Conversation with Recovery Advocate Network, the nonprofit organization that strives to address the staggering disparity in resource availability for individuals suffering from mental health disorders, processing disorders, addictions, trauma healing, and sexual identity challenges. Together, we strive to end the stigma associated with these challenges so that true healing can begin. Welcome back to Coffee and Conversations Between the Lines Blog Club series. This is episode number 44, where actress Adrienne Wilkinson will read Joshua Young's blog post entitled The Power and Pitfalls of Labeling. Adrienne Wilkinson was introduced to the world as the Empress of Rome, who was revealed to be Xena's daughter Eve in Xena Warrior Princess, the most watched show in the world at the time. She has since made dozens of notable television appearances, including popular guest starring roles on About a Boy, Partners, Charmed, Days of Our Lives, ER, and Angel, as well as series regular roles on Venice, Goodnight Burbank, Pretty the Series, Club 5150, and As If. She has appeared in fan favorite films including Raze, Alpha Force, The American Failure, and Reflections, for which she won several awards. Adrienne is also one of only a handful of actors to appear in both Star Wars and Star Trek projects, playing Maris Brood in Star Wars The Force Unleashed and Captain Lexxa Singh in Star Trek Renegades. Adrienne has voiced more than 50 lead characters in top animation projects and high-profile video games, including Rise of the Tomb Raider, World of Final Fantasy, Sons of Anarchy: The Prospect, and playing Daughter in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. She's also produced several independent films. Her diverse career has spanned multiple genres and projects that range from mainstream to cult classics, and she is known for her charity work, which includes a focus on literacy programs, animal welfare, and children. And then, of course, her volunteer time here with Rand to read this blog post. You can find out more about Adrienne and her charitable work on her website, www.adriennewilkinson.com. And of course, we will include that in the show notes for you. Between the Lines episodes are written by guests who prefer to use their written voice instead of their interview voice to share their stories. As a reminder, the views expressed in any blog are the views of the author, and the purpose is to provide a safe place for the author's voice to be heard. So, what are we waiting for? Fill up your coffee, sit back, and let's get started.
The Power and Pitfalls of Labeling by Joshua Young. Labels. They're like invisible tags we attach to people, often without realizing the weight those words carry. I know, because I've been labeled myself. It all started when my life took a sharp turn and I found myself grappling with my relationship with alcohol. The label alcoholic was thrust upon me, and it felt like a scarlet letter, marking me as different. At first, I resisted it. Being called an alcoholic seemed like a harsh verdict, a one-word judgment that overshadowed all of my other qualities and experiences. But as I began to confront my struggles with alcohol, I saw the power in that label. It was a wake-up call, a way to acknowledge my problem and seek help. The label alcoholic, it made me face the reality I had been avoiding. In my journey to sobriety, I discovered the pros and cons of labeling. On one hand, it provided recognition and acknowledgement of my issue. It opened the door to a support system I didn't know I needed, with groups like Alcoholics Anonymous offering guidance and understanding. The label framed my journey as one of recovery, giving me hope for a better future. Yet there was a dark side to this label. Society often stigmatizes alcoholism, seeing it as a moral failing rather than a medical condition. The shame and guilt that came with the label were suffocating at times. It was as though my entire character had been reduced to a single word: alcoholic. carrying preconceived notions and judgments. As I began to recover as an alcoholic, I needed to address an issue that I had kept hidden for decades. As a young teenager, I endured sexual abuse for 16 months. It was a painful chapter of my life that left invisible scars. When I first heard the label sexual abuse victim, it felt like an acknowledgement of the pain I had endured. It was a term that validated my experience, recognizing the trauma I had faced. The label sexual abuse victim also provided a starting point for understanding my journey towards healing. It was an acknowledgement of the wounds that needed attention and care. Through this label, I sought therapy, support groups, and the resources I needed to reclaim my life. Yet as time passed and I worked through my trauma, I began to feel conflicted about the label. The word victim felt limiting, as if it defined me solely by the horrors of my past. It carried a stigma that suggested vulnerability and helplessness. People often associate victim with a sense of powerlessness, and I didn't want to be seen that way. I longed for a label that reflected my resilience, the strength I had found within myself to heal and move forward. And so, the term sexual abuse survivor began to resonate with me. It spoke to my ability to overcome adversity, to rise above the pain, and to rebuild my life. The label sexual abuse survivor felt empowering. It acknowledged my strength and the courage it took to face my past. It became a testament to my journey of healing, a story of triumph over adversity. But as with any label, there were cons. The word survivor could sometimes gloss over the ongoing challenges I faced. It implied that the battle was won, that the wounds had completely healed. In reality, healing is a complex and ongoing process. The label survivor could create unrealistic expectations, both from others and myself. There were moments when the label also felt isolating. Not everyone understood the depth of my experience or the complexities of recovery. Some assumed that once I was labeled a survivor, I should have moved on completely from my past. It was as if they expected the scars to vanish entirely, and this lack of understanding could be isolating. I realized that labels, whether sexual abuse victim or sexual abuse survivor, are tools to help us navigate our experiences. They can validate our pain, acknowledge our strength, and provide a starting point for healing. But they should never define us entirely. As I navigated the complexities of labeling my own life, I became aware of another realm of labels that demanded my attention: gender identity. In my daily life and in the support groups I attended, I met people who identified as he, she, they, and various other pronouns. I was introduced to the world of transgender and non-binary identities, and it made me ponder the pros and cons of these labels. Gender labels, I learned, were vital for many individuals. They provided validation and recognition for those whose identities did not conform to traditional norms. These labels built communities of people who shared similar experiences, offering a sense of belonging in a world that often misunderstands them. Moreover, gender labels served as platforms for advocacy and awareness, pushing for the rights and visibility of transgender and non-binary individuals. But there was a flip side to this coin. Just like with the alcoholic label, gender labels had the potential to foster stereotypes and misunderstandings. Assuming that all transgender individuals fit into a particular mold was limiting and inaccurate. The binary system often excluded non-binary individuals, leaving them feeling marginalized and invisible. In the end, I realized that labels were double-edged swords. They could empower, guide, and create communities, but they could also stigmatize, limit, and isolate. The key lay an understanding that labels should never define a person entirely. We are all multifaceted individuals with unique experiences and identities that go beyond any one label. I learned that while labels are a part of life, it's our responsibility to wield them with care, to see beyond the surface and recognize the complexity of each person's journey. It is about understanding that labels are tools and not necessarily our entire identities, and that true empathy and compassion go beyond the words we use to describe each other. In the end, we are all more than the sum of our labels, and it is this beautiful complexity that makes us human.
Thank you for joining us today with your coffee and conversation. We hope you've been encouraged and learned something from today's story. To learn more about today's guest, please check out our show notes for more details. Now it's time to remember to like this episode, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to ensure you do not miss future episodes. Recovery Advocate Network envisions a world where individuals with mental health challenges receive comprehensive and effective treatment without the worry of financial burdens to themselves or their families, all without the stigmas often present in society. We are proud that every individual worked with RAN does so on a 100% volunteer basis. You can support the mission by making a financial donation via PayPal or Venmo, or email donate@recoveryadvocatenetwork.org if you would like to donate items for our next fundraising auction. Please visit our website at www.recoveryadvocatenetwork.org to learn more. Now, stay in the loop about upcoming events, future episodes, and more by following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, TikTok, LinkedIn, and all major podcast platforms. As a reminder, the experiences and advice expressed in this episode are the host and guest's own personal stories and do not represent the opinions of any organization mentioned. RAN is passionate about opening the doors for all voices and experiences, not just those expressed in any particular podcast. If you want to share your experiences or expertise, we encourage you to be a future guest by emailing us at podcast@recoveryadvocatenetwork.org or submit a blog by emailing blog@recoveryadvocatenetwork.org. We also encourage you to comment on the episode so that we can continue to provide content that is most beneficial to the community. How do you do that? Visit our website at www.recoveryadvocatenetwork.org, and in the top right corner, click that comment button and comment. So listeners, what do you need to do? Pause what you're doing, subscribe, follow us. Please give us a like and a 5-star rating, write some meaningful comments, and most importantly, share these episodes with your friends. You never know whose heart you will touch, so please be a part of a reason someone has new hope today. If this episode was triggering to you, we encourage you to contact your support system, therapist, national and community support groups, the Global Crisis Text Line by texting 741-741, and/or if in the U.S., dialing 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you're in the U.S. and need additional resources such as shelter, support group resources, transportation, food, and/or a safe, confidential path out of physical or emotional domestic abuse, please call 211 or visit www.211info.org for assistance. Now, we know you are very busy, and we are grateful that you said yes to sharing time with us today. If you stuck to our 3 C's of engagement and listened to the full episode, then visit the podcast section of our website and leave the comment about the podcast, and you'll be entered to win an autographed copy of one of the books from one of our book club series, as well as a Coffee and Conversation coffee mug. So, thanks again. Until next time, back to your coffee.